A quick note before today's video to let you know that the first 3 episodes of the Sojourn audio drama are now permanently free to listen to on their YouTube channel. Check it out in the links in the description and pinned comment below. Because of you, I binged watched Knights of Sidonia, and it's great! I recommend this action series because of its gorgeous visuals, hype moments, and interesting hard sci-fi details, though I will say it's a little bit shallow. Today's video goes more into all of these points to see what I loved and hated about this anime. Before starting the show, I knew very little about it. It was a blank slate with a cool spaceship that had a big gun. We'll get more into that, the mechs, and the show itself later, so latch on your tethers and hang on for those, because I want to talk about the characters first, since they started out being kinda whatever and a bit bland and samey. But the show did a good job of having them grow and change over time, especially in Season 2. My favourites ended up being Kobayashi, Samari, and Izana. Kobayashi started out being intriguing due to her mysterious visual style and the decisions she had to make to keep Sidonia safe as its captain. The revelations about her and the history of the ship just cemented that for me, especially with how she recognized the mistakes of the past and tried hard to balance them with the needs of the future. She makes for a good captain and is certainly not detached from the consequences of her decisions, despite her aloof nature. She's very similar to Samari in that regard, who I like for similar reasons. She is one of the older cohort of guard pilots and approaches her job with a very level and professional demeanor. It's always great seeing her leading a triumphant rescue in the show because of that, and her drunken talk with Tanikaze shows she's got the depth to back those moments up. Izana is an interesting one as she's a core member of the cast, so we see so much more of her growth from being an unsure cadet all the way up to being a unique part of Sidonia's military forces. She's also the center of one of the show's world-building elements with the neutral gender that later adjusts to being either male or female. This is an interesting idea when taken in the context of the population crisis that Sidonia faced and a potential gender imbalance that the likes of cloning might have had. She does become a bit one-dimensional in the middle of Season 2, but that's during the annoying harem arc of the show. A lot of the characters get reduced to stupid tropes there. But that's also when she gets cyborg parts and the ability to link to guards, which elevates her to being part of a special observer unit in Sidonia's arsenal. Now it's the mech's turn, and they're called guards, and I really quite like the design of them, just like you should like this video. Their angular shapes make them feel very aggressive and fast, which fits well with how they zip and zoom around like crazy space fighters. They aren't weighty or anything, which is a big change from previous mech media I've seen, but I never found that to be a problem. The hyperactive dog energy was very fun. I also adored the special spears they started out with, and was a bit sad to see them get phased out in exchange for guns. High-speed mechs weaving beams, bullets, and melee all together before a spectacular coup de grace just has so much more pizzazz than endlessly blasting away at something. I will admit the very first time Tanikaze takes a gun out was pretty hype though, as was the awesome endless downward barrage at the end of Season 2. But what I really liked about the guards is their rocket plume effects. It's not even really part of the guards themselves, but since the plumes are the main visible component when things get hectic, the plumes and particles they leave behind being so awesome looking is very important. You can see the effort and passion that the artists put into the plumes to accentuate the motion of the mechs. And I can't talk about the guards without talking about clasp formation. I still fail to see how joining them up lets them go faster since the thrust to weight never changes, but hey, it looks sick as hell, especially when the show starts them doing bigger groups. Seeing a huge ring of mechs blast off together never gets old. Plus, it being a thing that the pilots can do for luck and morale is just neat. It's little touches like that add so much character to the setting. In fact, the clasp ends up being this anime's special thing, since the guard support armor can do it, and then even later on, the cruisers also link together. And both of those things also look very cool. They're a brilliant design and size progression from the guards all the way up to Sidonia itself. And what a ship this is! Its appearance alone with that basic geometric shape with the asteroid along it is up there as one of the iconic greats of sci-fi. The interior is totally not what I expected too. Those vertically stacked anachronistic urban buildings interwoven with big Akira-style pipes is very endearing. There's some understanding there that residential areas for such a long duration need to be pleasant places to exist, which leaves the more functional areas to be all sci-fi and high-tech. The vessel being so big big and so old also means that the surprises with its various special functions never feel like they're a step too far. It may be a colony ship, but it was also one that was built to defend against an apocalyptically powerful enemy, so it makes sense that it has its own apocalyptically powerful weapons. And each of those weapons is appropriately an event when it's unleashed. The heavy mass cannons with their vast projectiles, the world-destroying interplanetary missiles, its beam weapons, and a surprise in the movie. All have incredible visuals and all slot perfectly into the constant escalation that the fight with the Gauna demands. And that's because the Gauna themselves are also constantly surprising with how they change and adapt. As with everything in this show, they look very interesting but in totally different ways to the human tech, though I wish their story could keep up with the surprises. That's one of the shallow things I mentioned in the intro. There's these hints now and then behind the way they work that never seem to get expanded upon. But that doesn't matter though, because that's not really the point of them. The Gauna are instead brilliant drivers for the plot and drama, and work very well as a characterless force to do that, so it doesn't really matter that there's not really an antagonist until the movie with the second hybrid. And those are a thing too, hybrids between the Gauna and humans. At first this goes one way with how the Gauna copy humans and even guards as they fight Sidonia. Then the humans start coming up with their own hybrid tech and even a pair of true Gauna human hybrids. The first of which becomes a whole key character and member of the main cast, and the second is that antagonist I mentioned. The first one is the heart of the second season, but the other one in the movie feels like a big long arc from the manga that got massively compressed. Now we get onto the matter of the show itself, starting with its 3D animation style, which did take a bit to get used to. Yeah, it starts out kinda rough, but does improve a lot as the show goes on, with characters especially becoming a lot more expressive and detailed. Most importantly, the animation is never outright bad like Berserk. The show's biggest strength is its great action and pacing. It's what makes it so bingeable, especially in the first season. Yeah, it is a fast pace, but it still gets in the build-ups, surprises, payoffs, and moments to breathe, so it never feels hurried. The second season is almost as good, but there's this big lull in the later half to do more character stuff, which is fine, but there was too much of it in one go. It should have been spaced out over the season a little bit better. It didn't help that a lot of this character stuff was atrocious will they won't they harem romance slop, which was extremely aggravating and felt very forced. Was this in the manga? If so, was it forced into that by a publisher? Because that's what it feels like. Another one of my issues is the show's relative lack of depth. Don't get me wrong, what the show does best it is really good at, but it is a shallow experience. At times it comes close to saying something, like with the hard choices the captain makes, but it never really examines them. I'm not saying it should go full Pat Labor too, just that it could have done a little bit more than it did in a few areas. This is another place where I wonder if the manga did things differently. Let's go back to the positives, like the excellent nods to realism judiciously sprinkled throughout. Things like the guards' pilot suits having high-tech versions of waist capture mirrors what real spacesuits have done. And they have this neat backpack escape pod thing which also mirrors a real concept. There's more though, like the tethers everyone has to wear in case the ship needs to maneuver, the guards shown matching velocities with targets in space, and this bit where Azana isn't wearing magnetic boots in a zero-G area. A lot of these details are set up for a payoff later on, but many are just there. Seems like Japan has consistently been ahead of Western popular media with these hard sci-fi ideas. It's not just Sidonia either, Gundam has been doing this stuff for decades. So to wrap up, despite its issues, I did enjoy my big ol' binge watch of Knights of Sidonia, and I do recommend it. Just be patient with the 3D animation and prepare for some weirdness, like you just have to accept that there's a talking bear. The action scenes, visuals, and moments of triumph make it well worth it. You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate, fighter, and carrier design reference books, as well as 1 week early access to upcoming videos. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.